I know I'm not the only one with this problem. No matter how many kids are in the house to help, the blinds still manage to be left open at night. And somehow, they're still closed during the day. It's the same thing, every night and every day. So let's fix and automate this. This is the Zemismart Matter over thread blind motor. Zemismart were kind enough to send this device out for testing, but this isn't a sponsored video and they haven't had any input into it. So let's go and have a look. So at a high level, this blind motor is designed for the loop and chain Roman blinds. It sits on the chain you already have, rather than replacing the whole blind itself. The idea is that it's a simple retrofit. The blinds stay, you just automate the part you already touch every day. So on the motor itself is this physical control wheel. It allows us to go up and down directions along with a physical stop button. So it means that you can control the blind directly at the motor. It also comes with this very handy little remote with up, down and stop. The remote includes a magnetic plate so you can mount it somewhere convenient, like the doorway. There's a motor breaker included as well, which is handy as it's notched, which allows you to make adjustments when installing. If we look at the bottom of the motor, we'll see a USB-C port for charging, a blind limiter set switch, and a set button. This is what we'll use for peering into the smart home, resetting it if need be, or put it into long-term storage mode. For the chain itself, it comes with these 3 cogs. It allows us to pick the right cog for the chain. Make sure you pick the right one. Picking the right chain will make sure that we don't have any slippage or grinding. Power-wise, it's running a 6400 milliamp hour battery. In a normal day-to-day usage, it usually works out around several months worth of between charges. I've been running this for about a month now, and we'll go back and we'll have a look at the battery life. It charges over normal USB-C, and the cable's included in the box. There's no power brick in the box, but it'll charge happily over any standard 5 volt 1 amp power supply. It's also rated to handle lines up to about 5.5 kilos. That's roughly 12 pounds to those who prefer freedom units. It comes with this handy printed manual that covers installation, everyday operation and configuration, including how to set the upper and lower limits, peering into your smart home, and resetting if you ever need to again. I definitely had to use that a few times during my testing. The Matter QR code is printed right here on the box and conveniently on the side of the motor here. We'll circle back to the period side a bit later on. I ran into a small quirk during my testing that's worth calling out. But first, let's look at this physical install. Right, before anyone mentions it, yes, please ignore the patching that needs to happen here. That was an unrelated faux pas by this DIYer. I'll get to it one day, I promise. Anyway, physically installing this is pretty straightforward. You start by choosing the right drive cog that matches your blind chain. That part really matters because you want it seated properly without slipping. Once you've chosen the correct drive cog for your blind chain, you can fit that onto the motor, then hold the motor up against the wall and test the up and down movement, just to make sure everything lines up properly before committing to anything. Once you're happy with the position, line up the breaker and install it. The breaker is notched, which gives you that bit of adjustment during install, so that helps make sure that you get the alignment right. Then the motor just simply clicks into the bracket and the chain feeds through the cog. From there, you can manually test it using the control wheel, just to make sure everything's moving freely. Next up is setting the limits. This tells the motor exactly how far up and how far down the blind should travel. First, flip the limit set switch to the left. That puts the motor into a manual setting mode. Then rotate the control wheel to move the blind to your first position. When you're at the position you want, press the wheel once to stop it, then press the wheel again to confirm that's the limit. You'll feel a small vibration to let you know that it's been locked in. Now we rotate the wheel in the opposite direction to set the other end of travel. Again, press once to stop and press again to confirm. You'll get another vibration. Once both limits are set, flip the limit switch back to the right, and that's it. The motor now knows exactly where fully open and fully closed are. Before we jump into peering, there's one important thing to understand. This is a Matter over thread device. That means it doesn't connect directly to Wi-Fi. To join your smart home, you're going to need a compatible thread board or router. For this video, I'm using an Apple HomePod Mini. If you're using the Apple ecosystem, you're going to need something like the Apple HomePod Mini or the newer Apple TV 4K model. Google has Thread built into things like the Nest Hub, Amazon and its select Echo devices. In the end, each ecosystem has their own way of providing that Thread network. If you don't have one, the device simply won't work. I've written a full article breaking down the smart home protocols and their equivalent ecosystem compatibilities. I'll leave a link to that in the description if you want to go deeper. With that in place, pairing is straightforward. So to enter pairing mode, you press the set button 3 times quickly. When it's in pairing mode, the indicator light will start flashing. That flashing means it's advertising itself to be added. Then we go into Apple Home, add accessory, and then scan the QR code on the side of the motor and let it do its thing. After a moment, it appears as a blind inside Apple Home. We can now go and add the device to a room and then go and set the name. We'll just perform a quick test just to make sure that we're all happy with it. And there you go, we're all connected to our smart home. As I mentioned earlier in the video, we're now going to circle back to the little quirk I had during the pairing phase. On the first setup, this worked exactly as expected, but during testing, I started doing multiple resets, and after a number of factory resets, I noticed something odd. The device would enter into pairing mode, it would start communicating over Bluetooth, but then the commissioning would fail. It appeared that the Thread side of the reset wasn't fully clearing. So I reached out to Zemismart with the behavior I was seeing. To their credit, they were extremely responsive and helpful. We worked through the behavior together, and it looks like we identified a potential firmware bug. The expectation is that this will be addressed in a future firmware update. In the meantime, we found a reliable recovery method. If the device won't pair after a reset, simply perform a storage mode cycle. So long press the set button for 10 seconds, you should go through 2 vibrations to enter into storage mode. Then after a short wait, press the set button again for 5 seconds until you hear 1 vibration and then release. After that, you should see it automatically enter into pairing mode. If not, simply press the set button 3 times as per normal. It seems that the deep storage cycle clears the Thread protocol. To be fair, this only showed up after repeated resets during testing, and in normal day-to-day use, you're unlikely to hit this. But if you do, now you know how to recover it. Another quick note. When I first installed it, I mounted it perfectly in line with the chain, which meant as the blind came down, the blind would tap the control wheel. And because that wheel also controls the speed manually, it would slightly adjust the motor speed. Easy fix though, I just shifted about 20 mils and that solved the problem. And also circling back, battery wise, after about 4 weeks of use, up in the morning, down in the evening, it's still sitting around 97%. So for context, I do have a couple of cheaper Zigbee blind motors. Those are quite slighter than the Zemismart, but I found they drop off the network occasionally and the battery life hasn't been that great. So the Zemismart is a little louder in comparison, but it's been stable. And so far, battery performance looks solid. So overall, once it's installed, the limit's set and it's paired, it just works.
If you're keen to check out the Zemismart motor, I'll leave a link to it in the description below.
Now the next step for me will be adding it into Home Assistant. That way I can automate the blinds so they adapt throughout the day. Maybe I'll make that into another video. So for now, thanks for dropping by and I'll see you in the next video.